Empires usually collapse in fire and chaos, with armies marching and cities burning, but this empire disappeared quietly, without a final decisive battle. There was no invasion, no surrender ceremony, and no triumphant enemy flag raised, only ledgers, contracts, and silver slowly vanishing. This is the story of how power slipped away, not through violence but through numbers written quietly on paper. And this is why this forgotten collapse still matters deeply today. Because sovereignty rarely vanishes suddenly, it drains away slowly, year by year. For centuries, the Qing Empire believed it stood at the very center of civilization. Foreign nations were not treated as equals, but as distant visitors allowed by imperial grace. The empire possessed land, people, tradition, and immense confidence. What it lacked was awareness that the world beyond its borders was changing fast. While China remained still, Europe quietly reinvented power itself. Power was no longer measured by armies alone, but by banks, machines, and capital. At the heart of this new power was silver. Europe desired Chinese tea, silk, and porcelain, and China demanded payment in silver. For decades, silver poured into China like a steady, unstoppable river. That flow created the dangerous illusion of permanence. But no river flows forever in one direction. And when silver began leaving China, the foundation quietly weakened. At first, the imperial court failed to notice the warning signs. Because collapse never arrives with an announcement. It arrives as a whisper. Britain faced a growing crisis as silver drained steadily toward China. So Britain chose not to fight the trade, but to reshape it. The solution was opium, a commodity that did not build economies, but hollowed them from within. Slowly, silver began flowing out of China instead of in. Addiction spread faster than authority could respond. When China attempted to stop the trade, foreign gunboats appeared along the coast. The Opium Wars were never about conquest. They were about access and control. And China was defeated. Unequal treaties followed, signed under humiliation. Ports were opened, and tariffs were frozen. Foreigners operated beyond Chinese law. The empire still appeared sovereign from the outside, but control had already slipped through its fingers. Loans began filling the growing gaps. At first, borrowing felt like relief. The logic was simple: survive now, reform later. But later never arrived. Debt had taken root. Then the empire was hit by waves of rebellion, each one draining blood, silver, and authority at the same time. The Qing treasury, already weakened, began to empty faster than it could be refilled. Desperate officials turned again to foreign banks, but now the tone had changed completely. Loans still came, but the price was higher interest, harsher terms, and absolute control. With each agreement, the empire surrendered a little more freedom in exchange for survival. Soon, China's most important source of income slipped out of imperial hands entirely. Foreign administrators now collected customs revenue before the Qing government ever saw it. This was conquest without armies, and occupation without flags. No cities were stormed, yet control had quietly changed hands. Patience replaced violence as the most effective weapon of empire. Interest replaced invasion, growing heavier with every passing year. Railways, factories, and ports were built in the name of modernization. But the ownership of this new infrastructure quietly belonged to outsiders. China appeared to modernize, but its independence did not. More foreign creditors entered the picture, each demanding protection for their money. With every new treaty, China's choices grew fewer and narrower. The empire still existed, but it was increasingly being managed rather than ruled. Then came the Boxer Rebellion, a desperate attempt to break the chains by force. It failed, and the punishment was financial devastation. The Boxer indemnity imposed massive payments that would last for generations. Future tax revenue was already promised to foreign powers before it was even collected. The Qing state became a shell, struggling to function under crushing obligations. It survived for a few more years, weakened, indebted, and humiliated. When the dynasty finally collapsed, the debts did not disappear with it. The new republic inherited the land, and the financial chains attached to it. Because debt does not recognize revolutions or new governments. It follows territory, people, and future generations. China was not destroyed because it was weak or incapable. It was destroyed because it misunderstood how power had changed. The modern world no longer rewarded history or prestige. It rewarded control of money, trade, and credit. Contracts became stronger than cannons. Interest became more powerful than invasion. No foreign army needed to stay. The system enforced itself automatically. Empires rarely fall in a single dramatic moment. They trade tomorrow's freedom to survive today's crisis. One loan at a time. One concession at a time. Until the decisions are no longer theirs to make. Sovereignty is not lost when soldiers arrive. It is lost when budgets answer to someone else. History does not repeat itself exactly, but financial structures echo across time. Modern empires fall quietly, without headlines. There is no final battle to remember. Only a final payment recorded in a ledger. And a lesson written not in stone, but in red ink. If a nation does not control its debt, then its debt will eventually control the nation.